Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Burns.
Yeah, Nancy Burns here.
And we're from Future Theater. And you know what we like to listen to?
Bang.
Radio on Sunday nights at 9 p.m.
At 9 p.m.?
What
Eastern.
network?
Oh, the best network on the whole entire internet. Inception Radio Network.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
Get ready to pang your head. Your radio host for Pang Radio, Mike Lucas.
Good evening, planet Earth. Welcome to Pang Radio. Tonight is Sunday, October 19th, 2014. Welcome to the show. We have a special treat for you tonight. We have two guests tonight on the show. We have first starting off with Travis Walton, and then second half of the show, the last hour of the show, we're going to talk to Roger Phillips. So quick reminders is, if you look in chat right now, we have a little paperclip on the side of the chat. That is a new feature, and what that paperclip allows you to do is, let me get into the notes here. You can send a 10-second video clip from your webcam and upload that to chat, and I believe if you're using Firefox, you're going to get all them features, and there's more features to come too from Internet Explorer and that. So that's a new feature. You can attach a picture straight with that paperclip instead of doing the old copy and paste. But let's get straight to it. Let's welcome Travis Walton to the show tonight. Welcome to the show, Travis.
Good to be here.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you on. I would say one of the most. What would you say, Ken, is the word to explain his case?
Well, I think it's not only one of the more interesting cases, but I think it also goes to the heart of the abduction phenomena, and an incredible story. I just think that people need to realize that there's probably a lot of information still out there concerning that abduction and what happened to Travis Walton.
Yeah, well, the research is ongoing. There's all kinds of new things being discovered that just surprise me that we can keep making discoveries.
Hey, Travis, to start the ball rolling a little bit, I got a question for you, and I think most of our listeners are familiar with what happened, but could you just recap real quickly what transpired on that mountain for you?
Well, we were working in a forest in Arizona, 7,000 feet up in the timber, and we'd put in a long day with cutting trees with chainsaws, and it was starting to get dark, so day was over. We loaded up and we're driving home, and we hadn't gone too far when we saw a kind of a strange glow coming through the trees up ahead, and when we finally got where we could see where the light was coming from, man, it was just the most amazing sight. Boom, there it was, this UFO hovering there.
And let me ask you this real quick. That wasn't just a light in the sky when you got on scene. You actually saw a structured craft, didn't you?
That's right. It was the skeptics were saying, oh, well, they just saw the planet Jupiter. But, this was, 20, 30 feet across, and less than 100 feet away.
Yeah,
not the planet Jupiter.
Yeah, well, that's the usual card that a lot of those boneheads throw out there. Can you describe what the craft looked like? You got a pretty good look at it.
Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was glowing, and we described it as looking like molten metal, but that was like molten steel coming out of a blast furnace. So it was a yellow, a golden, white hot, not like molten lava like they did in the movie. But parts of it were not glowing, but it was metallic, except for the parts that were giving off light. And the whole surface was like one smooth, glassy surface. and it was the overall shape of it was a disc, like two pipe hands put lip to lip.
Was there any rotation to the craft at all, or was it just stationary?
No, it wasn't spinning, and that is one mistake I see a lot in the reenactments that are done, recreations that are done for film. But the same side was towards us all the time.
Travis, Travis, this is MJ. Now, did the truck come to a complete stop?
As soon as it stopped, I threw open the door, and I was just thinking it would take off before I got up close. But the closer I got, it wasn't going anywhere, and I started to become more scared about what I was doing, and
it's one of those oops moment.
Yeah, but I was trying not to show it, but the guys in the truck were really pretty alarmed and were yelling at me to come back to the truck. But
could you feel any heat from the object?
I didn't feel any heat, but I could feel the sound, and
okay.
that seems strange to say it that way, but the sound was so off the range of human hearing on the low and the high end that it was something like you could, of course you could hear parts of it, but parts of it you could feel in your body because it was so powerful. And, even the guys that were still sitting in the truck felt the power of it. And several of them said it seemed like something was about to happen. But, what I think that was is not just the danger of me getting too close. I think that they were sensing was some kind of an electrical charge that was building up in the air. Because when it started to move and the sound got louder, I just instinctively dove for cover. And I jumped into a crouch. And I was down behind this log. And, in order to get behind the log, I had to kind of take a little bit of a step forward, too. And when I decided to run back to the truck, that's when I stood up. And that right there was when my head and chest closed the distance to the craft. And that's when it hit me.
Were you hit with a kind of a tractor beam, or were you just immobilized?
Well, it was not like in the movie where it looks like it's just kind of holding the actor there and then just sort of tossing him back. It was much more violent than that. It was just like an explosion of energy. They could hear a sound, they said. It rendered me unconscious immediately, but they said it made one of the guys became a journeyman electrician on industrial stuff, and he said it sounded like the surge of high voltage to him. But in one of the detectives, the deputies' reports in the sheriff's file, one of the men had described it as looking like a long blue flame. But, some of them described it as looking like a ray or a bolt of lightning or whatever. But they said it was so powerful and it threw me through the air so violently that every one of them just immediately just assumed it had killed me.
Right, and understandably. Did you sustain any type of injury from that?
Well, I didn't have any sign of injury when I was returned, but I do think that it would have at least put me into cardiac arrest.
Right.
And maybe something worse.
Right.
The guys took off and they were in a panic and they were arguing about what to do. But, one argument between Steve and Dwayne was whether it had blown me to pieces or burned me up or something.
Well, and that's understandable given the context of what just transpired in front of them. But once you were hit with whatever it was, you have no conscious memory from that point on until you're inside the craft. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Do you think that the craft at one point was on the ground while you guys were approaching it, driving up?
It could have been, and the on-site research is ongoing, and the idea that there was high radiation level there is being supported by some more discoveries that we've made.
Have you had any effects of being exposed to high radiation?
Oh no, I haven't had any negative health effects at all.
Wow, that's great.
Travis, this is MJ. Now, did any research? Was there anybody else that's seen this craft in the area, or was there any reports you came across?
Oh, yeah. When we got a hold of the sheriff's file on it, there was a number of campers and hunters that reported to the sheriff that they had seen it too, passing overhead. And I've also had people independently, tell me they were in the area and had seen it.
Wow, interesting.
That's phenomenal. When was your first conscious moment? When being inside the craft, what was your first awareness that, we're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy?
Well, I didn't know where I was when I woke up, and I didn't, just come right awake. I was kind of like in and out for a long time.
Sure.
The first sensation was just pain, mostly pain, and also the feeling of suffocation. And, people that think that in my situation they would have remained calm and handled the situation better don't understand the effect that the feeling of suffocation gives you. I've compared it to the effectiveness of waterboarding in interrogations. They train our people with it. The terrorists are aware of it before they ever undergo it. But it still works because it operates on an instinctive level. The feeling of suffocation triggers fear beyond anything you can reason away.
Right.
And the pain and the feeling of being trapped in this dimly lit, cramped space, all of that just, the level of pain was, it felt like something was definitely seriously wrong with my body.
Were you able? You said almost describing a claustrophobic type of situation in which you were in a cramped containment in a small space.
Yeah, and just the overriding thought was I just got to get out of here. I just got to get out of here and get some fresh air. It's just.
But do you know what you were in?
Well, I could have been transferred to another craft. I just don't know, and I really don't know how long I was unconscious before I woke up. It could have been. Because I was gone for so long, this conscious period could have been, within hours or several days later, depending on the extent of the damage. You see, I pieced together, and I'm thinking that rather than this being an intentional abduction, that it was more like a rescue, more like an ambulance call.
Mm-hmm.
Because the nearest hospital was over an hour away. And if this discharge from the craft was just some, side effect of the propulsion system or something like that, rather than a deliberate weapon, just getting unexpectedly close like that, I could have got myself hurt or killed. And then they were, in a situation where they just had to take me aboard to revive me.
So from what you're describing, their intended consequence was not to take you aboard, but they had to because of what transpired between you and the craft whenever they did what they did.
Yeah, well, some of the guys on the crew think that it was intentional, that they were after me, but, I've always favored the idea that it was kind of a unexpected thing, not planned. Maybe I'm biased because, it means that there's not some kind of individual interest in me, but then that way it's over.
Right. And I mean, if it was something that they were after, like you, I'm surprised that if that was the motive, that they didn't take the other people in the truck. They could have easily done that too, probably.
Yeah.
No.
So,
Travis, as the truck took off, did they see any type of direction the craft left in?
Well, they didn't see it leave until they were headed back. And, Ken was saying when on the way back that his greatest fear was not that they would return or that they were still lurking around, but that what my body was going to look like, because he was thinking it might be all charred and burned up.
Right.
So when they went to the sheriff and they said he might be dead, that triggered a lot of suspicion, that they had murdered me and were just making up a crazy cover story. but they really did have reason to think that I might have been killed.
And Travis, how many miles away were you found a few days later?
Oh, 10 or 15 miles away.
Okay.
Did you ever come in contact with the crew or the beings of the craft?
Oh, yeah. As soon as I got my wits about me and realized where I was, at first I thought I was in a hospital. But then it was when I just turned and looked and could see that this was not a doctor. This was this creature standing over me. I just flipped out. And I knew I wasn't in Kansas anymore.
Right.
No kidding. Can you describe what the being looked like and what kind of interaction transpired?
Well, they were short, pale, large-eyed, hairless beings. But, nobody had the term grays back then, and it's my personal opinion that a lot of what people are calling grays nowadays are really, several different species, at least several. And, people just have the tendency to, with a similar description, assume that they're all the same race from the same place. But I really don't think that's the case.
Did you see more than one race on the ship, Travis, at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was also some very human-looking beings. And, even within the case of the what's called grays, the skeptics are always trying to say, well, something even vaguely humanoid in form is just beyond the statistical odds. But on the contrary, any creature that's going to develop intelligence and be tool-using is going to take on a similar form, or that's what comes about. I did a lot of thinking about this. Every creature that comes to live in the sea comes to look like a fish, even if they're not remotely related to fish. Mammals or amphibians or even birds, if they live in the sea, they come to look very fish-like, because that's what works there.
Mm-hmm.
So, they've identified the conditions for life on other planets. And way back, like when this happened, they didn't know of a single planet outside of our solar system.
Right. Mm-hmm.
For sure. But, the astronomers theorized that there were some, but their estimations were far. There was this thing called the Drake equation, where they estimated the number of possible civilizations in our galaxy. And, just as recently as the first Cosmos series, they didn't really know just how numerous these other planets are. But just this last year, NASA said it's a virtual certainty that almost every star has about a dozen planets. And that raises the number of life possibility planets into the billions just within our galaxy.
Right.
Hey, Travis, did the beings communicate with you in any way, shape, or form?
Well, I was definitely, screaming threats, and I was so terrified. I was just, didn't want them to come any closer. And I do think they were trying to do some kind of telepathic thing, but their stare seemed to come with it this excruciating feeling in my head. And I think they were trying to assert control, and it wasn't working. And I think it was because the energy of that beam had done some neurological disturbance that was making it to where it wouldn't work. And even the three of them combining this effort, it just was painful for me, but they couldn't control me, so they left. But what supports the idea that I'm trying to, theory that I'm giving you there is the EEG, the brainwave scan I was given after I was returned.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my medical exam. There was an unusual pattern there. And the plan is to try to go back and see if that's still there. But it's kind of uncertain what the value of that's going to be, because somebody here just the other day suggested, well, what if that was something that you already had to start with?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Some sort of a anomaly that keeps them from controlling you. They were saying maybe that's even why they were interested in you, but I go more with the theory that the beam caused some kind of a abnormality. You see, here a while back I was being filmed for the new UFO research movie. It's called 701, the movie, and that refers to the 701 unresolved cases from Project Blue Book. And on the day I was being interviewed, I had a chance to talk to some of the school kids from Zimbabwe.
Oh, yeah.
There were like 60 kids at recess in the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
This craft came down. And all these kids, all these years have maintained that this happened, And these beings got out and did the stare thing at them like with me. But I asked her, was it painful? And she said, no, it wasn't painful at all. It was actually a very peaceful, friendly message there. So I'm thinking that the reason it was painful is because they were applying an amount of force that just wasn't working.
Hey, Travis, do you think you suffered PTSD from this?
Oh, definitely. But of course, they didn't have that term back
then. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They called it shell shock or something like that. But yeah, I definitely, had trouble for years, and the nightmares really did center around that stare and that intrusive feeling that gave me.
Okay. Travis, I'm going to cover a couple questions from chat, and then we're going to talk about your upcoming conference. Did they find any type of residue or any type of evidence on your clothing? Well, you didn't. Wait, now. You didn't come back in clothing, did you?
Well, no, that was just the movie.
Okay. Okay.
Hollywood, you got to be naked. But
sure.
Anyway, I still had my same clothes on.
Okay.
And actually, they did have the forethought to, carefully bag those up for later exam. But, with all the pressure and hubbub, suddenly it became, this whole accusation thing. And the bag of clothes was put into the trunk, and some tools got thrown in on top of it, tore open the bag. And by the time they got around to thinking about that, the evidence had been pretty much contaminated, and nobody followed through on that.
Amazing.
It's amazing how much research just was overlooked at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that was underfunding, and even when the remarkable tree growth, the accelerated growth of the trees nearest where the craft hovered, even when that was discovered, it took years to get follow-up, and we're still following up on it.
Wow.
And increasing the understanding of what happened there.
Now, are you thinking, we have another question. This is Bill from New York. Are you thinking of doing another remake of the movie?
Yeah, I've actually been approached by several filmmakers interested in the possibility, and there's nothing solid yet, but I would love to have one. I've collected hundreds of emails from people who, have expressed the desire that a remake be made that would be more in keeping with what actually happened. So, Hollywood loves a remake, and I think it's going to come. It'll happen.
Ken, go ahead if you got one more last question. Then
Hey, aside from the psychological aspect of it, Travis, what about did you suffer any type of physical injuries that you're aware of? And I guess where I'm going with this is, do you think they implanted anything to you?
Well, I had upper body x-rays that didn't reveal anything. And, in this particular experience, I've said rather than calling it an abduction, I'd call it a rescue or an ambulance call. So they may not even have the same idea as far as implantation,
Right.
Whole different purpose.
Right.
People talk about the alien agenda in the singular, and I think there's probably a number of probably as many agendas as there are species.
Right.
Right. Travis, why don't you tell our listeners about your upcoming conference and all the information your guests you're going to have there? Go ahead and shoot away.
Well, I'd like to, first of all, invite people to go to the website, which is www.skyfiresummit.com, for all the details there. But this is going to be on the 39th anniversary, and we're having an early Skywatch on the 5th, but that's completely sold out, actually overbooked. But and then we'll have another Skywatch during the conference. Now, the anniversary is the first early exclusive Skywatch, and that was it will be on the 5th. And then the actual conference with the speakers is 7th, 8th, and 9th. And we got a lot of the top name speakers, and we'll have a banquet dinner with the speakers the first night, and then on Saturday night we'll do another Skywatch.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be extremely popular because we will be, going to the site, which is, pretty unique.
And you've never been back. Have you been back to the site at night at all?
No, I've tried to avoid.
Okay.
And the combination of being there at night and on the anniversary is something that got me a little nervous, but I'll be in the company of others, so that might help.
I hope so. It certainly wasn't a reoccurrence, that's for sure. Hey, real quickly, these beings, I mean, they're here and they are coming and going as they please. Travis, what do you think their agenda is? I know that it may have been a rescue with you, and you may have inadvertently stumbled into.
Overall, because
right.
There's a variety of different species, and I've had a lot of years to think about this. Skeptics are always pushing one end of the spectrum, saying, well, if they're really here, they would land on the White House lawn and say, here we are, but they're not doing that. And what nobody seems to suggest, and Michio Kaku was saying, people keep acting like these civilizations are maybe a few hundred years ahead of us, but based on the age of these star systems, they could be hundreds of thousands or millions of years ahead of us. So like Arthur C. Clarke said, a sufficiently advanced technology would be indistinguishable from magic.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So my theory is on the opposite end of the spectrum from them landing on the White House lawn, I believe that they would be capable of doing everything that they do here and remain completely undetected. There would be no UFO phenomenon at all. And, with that under their control, then it's obvious to me, in my own thinking, this theory, is that they are in control of the degree of the sightings. And that we know they can fly without being lit up. We know that they can be invisible to radar. Being lit and being visible, do just this kind of a hide-and-seek sort of peekaboo, almost provable in case after case after case, is designed to condition us, in my thinking, to the reality without the shock of, landing on the White House lawn. If that were to happen, most of the world wouldn't even go to work the next day. It
Right.
would be extremely disruptive.
Right. Travis, we got one more question from one of our favorite supporters, Marilyn Carlson. Did they find any burn marks on your clothing, and have you had any, well, it's a double question, and have you had any hypnosis done?
Yes, I did undergo hypnosis. The main objective there was to separate this incredible fear from the memories, which allowed me to, express and relate to others for the first time what had happened. And no, there were no burn marks on my body and no physical evidence of this blast of energy. And, one skeptic was saying, well, if there'd have really been the energy, my clothes would have caught fire. Well, that's just absurd because you don't know the nature of the energy at all. And, a person can be tasered and not really catch their clothes on fire, but it definitely...
Oh, I've been, my background's law enforcement. I've been tasered in training several times, and it does not leave any marks, and it doesn't burn your skin, and it doesn't burn your clothes.
So, the nature of the energy has to do with the amount of energy and with the proportion of amperage to volts. And that's that's neither here nor there, since we don't know the nature of the injury. Or energy is what I was trying to say.
Right. Well, Travis, one more time, let them know where your conference site is again, and we thank you very much for being on the air tonight.
Yeah, go to www.skyfiresummit.com. And this is really going to be historic. It's got some very interesting people coming.
Perfect. Well, Travis, thank you for jumping in for that half hour. It means a lot to us.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks,
folks.
Travis. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Okay, folks, we'll be right back with Roger Phillips, so hang in there. Planet Earth, welcome back to Paying Radio. Tonight we have on our second guest, Roger Phillips joins us. Roger does UFO sculptures and alien cartoons from the Gray Zone. He's got a interesting piece even on a TV show, but we'll talk about all that and more. And welcome, Roger, to the show.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. And thanks for coming on and sharing your experiences with us.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here.
So, Roger, go ahead.
No. Yep. I proceeded. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, Roger. What gave you this idea? What inspired you to do this alien sculpture in this art?
Well, it all started a few years ago. I used to be a product designer for a trophy and medal company, and we were making these resin sculptures for our customers and clients. And it's amazing what kind of detail you can get out of these things. And after I left that job, I needed something to do, and I traveled frequently to China, where all these things are produced, as you could imagine. Mm-hmm. And I said to my dad, what could I do on my own? And I need a subject matter. And he said, how about we both were very interested in the subject of aliens visiting the Earth, and we were fans of Hangar 18, that movie, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Oh, yeah. So he said, how about something with real detail and real authenticity, with that subject, rather than the stuff that was readily available, like little, koozies that hold your beer cold and keychains and stickers. So that's how the whole idea was born.
Now, have you yourself had an experience or seen anything in the sky? That's a question I'd like to ask every guest on the show.
I did. It was about 1985, and I'm sure most of your audience is familiar with that famous sighting in the Hudson Valley area of New York, of upstate New York. Okay. And we have a famous parkway. It's called the Taconic Parkway, and it goes from Albany all the way down to New York City. And there are these power lines, these high power lines, run by Con Edison. And one evening, my friend called me up and he said, "You got to go outside. There's this huge object floating in the sky silently. It looks like it's a few hundred feet over your head, and it looks giant." So my dad and I ran out in our backyard, and it was pitch black, and the whole neighborhood had come out, and there's that large boomerang-shaped object, gliding silently overhead, and it just nice and easily, went over our house, and it was a clear night, and it just blocked out all the stars behind it. And we were standing there dumbstruck, at this object that was moving silently, kind of elegantly over our heads. And the next day in school, all the kids talked about it, because we had all called one another. And that was the closest time I've ever seen, to something like that.
Wow, amazing. So did anybody else witness it that night when you were? Yes,
that was considered one of the largest mass sightings in the history of the United States. I mean, it was for a while it was a hotbed of UFO activity. I remember that.
Yeah, and didn't they try to explain that it was a bunch of hand gliders with
right? Yeah, the ultralights.
Ultralights, right?
Yeah, and then in formation. And first of all, dead silent. If they're ultralights, they have those propellers on the back, and they make kind of a racket. And they were in. The lights were not moving. I think even the Blue Angels can't keep that perfect precision. And like I said, as it went overhead, in between the lights, it would block out the starlight behind it. So it was a large, slow-moving, silent object.
Yeah, and for all practical purposes, you got a close-up view of it. It went directly overhead.
Directly overhead, literally overhead. Our house, when I was growing up, was right near those high-power wires, and it followed that path. Heading south, from north, going south towards New York City. And the sightings just continued as it went along. All these people
Right.
reported seeing it.
Right. And I think from a number of witnesses, including several law enforcement, you can rule out that it was ultralights.
Right.
I mean, they did fly, and they did fly in a triangular formation, but they weren't anywhere close to what people were describing and what they saw.
Right, and the lights changed, and and changed color, and they was just so precise and steady and silent, and close. That was the whole creepy thing about it. Made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. It was just, just some kind of strange thing that is, not of this earth. That's what the feeling you got. Like when you've seen something you've never seen before, it's quite an experience.
Yeah, it's an oh wow moment, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely.
Yep. So that is a huge inspiration, but behind what you started. So what is the first thing you created? What came to mind?
Okay, well, the first thing was I said, let's make some scenes from famous, moments in alien and UFO history. So the very first one was a sculpture called a barn encounter. And, we know that famous story of the farmer that captured a live alien and he hid him away in the barn. So that was the first image I had created, like a sculpture, and the alien's kind of peeking out of the barn door, and then from that came another sculpture called Hangar 18, Encounter at Hangar 18, and everybody's familiar with that scene of, the ship being kept inside the Area 51, and I made it a little bit whimsical that the alien's kind of trying to sneak back in and get his ship and, get the heck out of the Earth. And
if you want to tell our listeners about a little that little Hangar 18 sculpture, a great story behind that. Go ahead and let our listeners know.
Sure. So maybe most people are familiar with that CBS show called The Big Bang Theory, and it's kind of a comedy, and they're all scientists and astrophysicists and that sort of thing. And I noticed that one of the characters, Raj Kuthrapali, he has a condo, and in the condo are telescopes and sculptures of UFOs and kind of space and alien related things, and then I contacted the set designer of the show, and I said, look, I'm a new guy, I'm creating these statues, and I'm a big fan of the show, and I noticed this character has this this great looking apartment, would you be willing to put my piece in there? And he said, yeah, I like that Hangar 18. They ordered one. I sent it to him, and the following season, it was right, prominently placed in Raj's apartment. And there was a Catwoman bust, statue beforehand, and they moved it out of the way, and in a real nice spot they put it, and they lit it up really great, and I almost jumped out of my pants when I saw saw it on TV. It was a very exciting moment.
That's awesome. That's so everybody when you watch The Big Bang Theory, watch for Roger's sculpture there on the shelf.
Yeah, you'll see it. It's still there. I'm happy to say it's about 3 seasons now.
3 seasons now.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. So that was
that's awesome.
A little feather in the cap.
Perfect. Now, what is your favorite UFO case?
You know what? I keep going back to that Hangar 18 incident. When I was younger with my dad, we went to the movie, of course, and that was I'm so fascinated with Area 51, and a lot of my cartoons, we'll talk about that later, they kind of center around that Area 51. So that's my most favorite moment. When the crash landing at Roswell. That really set it all off, and I had a few friends and fans of mine who were kind enough to bring my sculptures and books to that famous little cafe called the Little Ale Inn. Yeah, they were kind enough, and I got some photos they sent me from there. So anything related to Nevada, I'm a fan of.
I've eaten several hamburgers at the Ale Inn.
Have you? Wow.
Yeah.
I'm a little jealous. Yeah, I'd like to get out there someday. They have a great convention out there, so I'd like to get out there someday.
Yeah, that's definitely on my bucket list. That is absolutely. Now, have you ever been to Area 51 or been down that road?
Never been down there, and every year I say to myself, this is going to be the year I'm going to go. And they invited me, to exhibit my stuff, so that was nice of them. I just got to get my butt out there, bring some statues, bring the books, And, of course, I'd like to see all the famous sites. And, I'm sure it'll be a great inspiration. And just talk to the people and, get more ideas for new cartoons and new sculptures.
Mm-hmm. So currently, are your cartoons in any newspapers?
Yes. Not surprisingly, they are printed weekly in the Roswell Daily Record.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was a nice, again, took a lot of nagging on my part. I guess anybody who knows what it's like to try to get published or printed and, get your work out there, you have to become a pest, and, you have to kind of overcome that aversion to being nagging, someone. But finally they gave in. A new editor came in, and he liked my work, and he was nice enough to put it out there. And a woman I became friendly with through the internet, which is amazing. This new era we live in. Mm-hmm. She liked the work, and then she put in a good word for me. And she's the lifestyle and business editor. And boom, it got in, and now I have a steady gig. Not surprisingly, at the Roswell Daily Record, and it's printed every week in their paper.
That's awesome. We do have a question from chat, Roger. This is from Bill from New York. Are you still on the East Coast, and where can you see your exhibits?
Well, you know what? I don't really exhibit things like a traditional artist would do. I go every year. Close to me is Pine Bush, New York, and they call it the Roswell of the East Coast, and it's growing. There was a famous sighting of an actual alien creature in Pine Bush, and now it's becoming this huge mecca for people on this side. And so every year I go there. It's in May. And you can come out and see me there. So I always bring my stuff and I exhibit my work there in Pine Bush, New York.
That is awesome. So,
hey, Roger, has anybody from the Hollywood sector contacted you in regards to doing anything?
Not yet. I'm waiting for I feel like that all those actors in Hollywood that are waiters. They're waiters, and then they try to bump shoulders with the producers. Nothing yet. You know what? My approach was, I said, let me put it up on Facebook every day. I do a new cartoon every day, and that I got a little over 12,000 likes. So far, and a lot of readers. And last year, George Takei, Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Sulu.
Yeah, Mr. Sulu.
He posted one of my cartoons on his Facebook page, so that got me a little bit of a bump, and I was hoping maybe people would say, who is this guy? But I don't know enough about the cartoon / comic world to know how to get discovered. So if anyone can help me on that, I'd be much appreciative of that.
Your work is really, really good, and I'm surprised some animator from Disney or something like that hasn't picked up on it.
I that's the dream. And it's funny you mentioned Disney. Years and years ago, I was a software designer, and I would draw the animations for these kids software. Mm-hmm. And we went to a trade show, and I'm standing there. This was a Macworld. When the Macintosh was a big deal, and I stepped away to go to the bathroom, and I'm not kidding you. Just then, some guy from Disney came and spoke to a colleague of mine who was there. So tell this guy to give us a contact, and then I came back, and luckily he left his card with my colleague. I sent him a whole bunch of work and never heard from him again. So another another false start.
Well, yeah, but sometimes those things lay dormant for a while before they sprout.
Yes, so I just
you got to throw it out there.
Yeah, I think that's the thing you got to do now. I recently ordered this book called The Writer's Guide. It's called The Writer's Guide, and it has all the agents and literary agents, publishers, and syndicates. So I'm gonna send samples of my work to all of them and see what happens. Maybe that's the right route.
Well, we've discussed on this show in the past. Hollywood was contacted by the government after Roswell, and almost 1 year to the date, Marvin the Martian was created and animated by Walt Disney.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I often, when I hear your name and see your work, I often think, I wonder if somebody from the the Alphabet Boys would ever contact you and say, hey, we want you to put a smiley face on ET for us to soften the blow as we get closer to disclosure. Have you thought about that for doing a series like that?
I've not, but that's a wonderful idea. I mean, that's a neat notion, and you know what.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to inceptionradionetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows, an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to inceptionradionetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows, an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO sky watches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
To listen to the rest of this interview, please go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and register for the Insiders Club. What is the Insiders Club? The Insiders Club is our premium content, what you've just listened to. Now, what you've just listened to is a preview of that premium content. The Insiders Club is how we pay the bills. It's how you support IRN. You join forces with IRN to get the truth out there. Now, a lot of our content is free. I mean, most of our content is free. All of our live shows are free. If you go to our archives, the vast majority of our archives are for free. But to pay the bills, to help make sure this network stays alive, stays viable, we offer those who really love our radio station, our network, and our shows, an ability to support our network and become a part of IRN. Actually join forces in helping us get the truth out there. Now, how do you do this again? You go to InceptionRadioNetwork.com and you subscribe for the Insiders Club, and you'll have access to all of our archives, including this show, the rest of the show. A faster way of getting there, go to the description below this video and click on the link. And like I said, you'll be joining forces with IRN. You'll have availability of all of our content, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO sky watches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.